Now the latest from ITV News Meridian with Sangeeta Barbara and Fred Dinage.
Good evening and welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines. Left fighting for his life, the pensioner who caught Legionnaires' disease following a stay at a hotel in Dorset.
They said I was a very, very sick man in that hospital.
Face to face with the people who robbed them, the new scheme bringing victims and criminals together.
When the knives were out for Thatcher, 25 years on, Michael Heseltine recalls the plot to overthrow Britain's first and only woman Prime Minister. We have an exclusive interview.
And new fame for Enid Blyton's famous childhood characters, why the heroes of yesteryear are back in the limelight. Good evening. He nearly died and spent 3 weeks in intensive care suffering from Legionnaires' disease following a stay at a hotel in Bournemouth. 74-year-old Peter Apps was put into an induced coma as he fought for his life.
Well, he's now finally been allowed home and the hotel is closed while tests for the Legionella bacteria are carried out. His family are still anxiously awaiting the results and they've been talking to Sarah Saunders about the harrowing experience.
His family said their goodbyes to 75-year-old Peter Apps as he lay critically ill in hospital with Legionnaires' disease. But incredibly, after 7 weeks intensive hospital treatment, he's back home. Peter fell ill after staying at a hotel in Dorset, and for a week and a half he'd been kept alive by machines, in an induced coma. Doctors feared the worst.
They said I was a very, very sick man in that hospital, you know, for that fortnight.
I'm very lucky to get out.
I am very lucky to be alive. I wouldn't like anybody to go through it, you know, because it has been really, really bad.
Peter's condition became so critical that his family were called to the hospital in the early hours of the morning.
He was so ill that I thought we was going to bury him, not have him home for Christmas. It's just shutting down, basically. They put him in a coma and all these things. You don't think it's going to happen to your husband. The people in ICU unit, they saved his life.
Extremely rare in the UK, Legionnaires' disease comes from the Legionella bacteria, which can grow in water systems. If tiny droplets containing the bacteria are inhaled, it can bring on a potentially fatal form of pneumonia. Environmental health officers have taken samples from the Roundhouse Hotel in Bournemouth, where Peter was staying before he fell ill, and are awaiting the results of microbiological tests. It appears the hotel owners, Britannia, have voluntarily closed while the investigation is carried out, but they have yet to respond to our requests for a statement. Peter's family are keen to get answers, so no one else has to suffer as he did.
Because I don't want any other family going through what I sort of had to go through.
Sarah Saunders, ITV News.
In other news, two brothers from Portsmouth who planned to travel to Syria to carry out acts of terrorism have each been jailed for 6 years. 26-year-old Tuhin Shensha and 23-year-old Mustaqim Jaman, both from Hudson Road in Southsea, helped others travel to Syria for terrorism. They also allowed their bank accounts to be used to fund terrorist activities.
Thieves have ram-raided a bank in Hampshire. The two men wearing ski masks drove a silver Audi into the HSBC in Hedge End. They stole cash and several boxes. Police are searching for the car, which will have been damaged during the robbery.
A young pilot who died when his plane crashed in 1940 into the Fens in Norfolk has finally been laid to rest in Hove. Pilot Harold Penkhurst's remains were found by archaeologists during filming for a television programme. His Spitfire came down during a training flight. He was just 20 years old when he was killed. An RAF service was held and his ashes scattered at St Peter's Church in West Blatchington.
Plans to cut nearly 200 jobs and increase council tax by just under 2% in Southampton have been put out for consultation. Officials at the City Council say they need to save £90 million over the next 4 years. The Labour leader of the council will be writing to the Chancellor asking for the government to stop further cuts to the city's budget. People have 8 weeks to have their say on the proposals.
Now, if your home had been burgled or you'd been mugged, how would you feel about meeting the culprit face to face?
Well, that's exactly what is happening more and more here in the south as the Sussex police experiment with restorative justice.
Well, today criminologists gathered at a conference in Sussex to assess its impact on victims and criminals alike. Andy Dickinson has our report.
So I suppose you sort of feel a bit like your local environment is a bit more hostile than you thought before, sort of thing. The main reason.
It's a rare opportunity for victims to talk to their tormentors. Andrew and Zoe were burgled while they slept. 2 years later, they and their young family still suffer nightmares. This the moment they met the thief Ollie for the first time.
You probably never will. Do I feel bad? Yeah, am I ashamed of it? Yeah, I am.
I think that's brilliant to hear you say that, and that's why that is completely my reason for wanting to do this.
Today in Crawley, experts in restorative justice met to discuss a process that not only reduces crime and reoffending rates, but also brings relief to victims. Victims not just of burglaries, but robbery and even rape.
Restorative justice is the answer to the core problem of the criminal justice system, which is that people go back to crime afterwards and the victims never feel closure. And the whole assumption about the trial process and prison and punishment is that somehow this is the end of it. It isn't. And the reoffending rate goes down by at least 14% for those offenders who take part in the process.
Often victims of crime aren't happy with the current system of justice that we have. Restorative justice is another way of getting that justice restored to them by meeting the offender of the crime and actually telling him or her how they felt and how that crime impacted them. Very, very powerful.
With a dedicated service operational in Sussex since April, more than 50 victims have so far been helped to get beneath the horror of their experiences. Tracy is one of them.
It doesn't go away completely, it's always there with you. But you've had a chance to put your point of view across and to say, you robbed me, and what are you going to say about it?
I regret it so much, but I can't take that back.
It's quite good to meet you and hear your story and sort of know that you feel sorry that you're a real person as well.
Police hope to arrange many more meetings like this, but with more cuts to the justice system expected to be announced next week, this level of understanding between offender and victim hangs in the balance.
I'd like to go for a pint with you if I had time, but...
Andy Dickinson, ITV News, Crawley.
In other news, more than 4.5 million emergency meals were given out by food banks across the country in just 6 months. The Wiltshire-based Trussell Trust says it distributed more than 500,000 food parcels from April to September. The charity says it fears more families may have to rely on handouts if plans to change tax credits do go ahead.
1 in 5 privately rented homes in Chichester pose a threat to tenants, according to a new council study. Hazards such as extreme cold, vermin infestations, leaking roofs and dangerous boilers have been found in 22% of properties. The local authority is looking to introduce a warm homes initiative to help landlords improve heating and the energy efficiency of their homes.
Portsmouth-based HMS Defender has shown solidarity with the French Air Force by holding a joint training exercise in the Gulf. The Type 45 destroyer took part in air defence training with French fighter jets. Defender is currently on a 9-month mission in the Middle East.
You're watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Thanks for choosing us. Coming up,
how scouts are trying to break down barriers between different cultures. And Simon will have the weather forecast. That is after he's finished his festive duties.
Yes, I'm measuring the Christmas tree, but not just any Christmas tree, Britain's tallest living Christmas tree. What do you reckon, feet, inches or millimetres?
Too high for me. Well, for more on all of our stories, head to itv.com/Meridian. Any views or news, call us 0808 1010 095 or get in touch via Facebook, or why not send us a tweet at ITV Meridian.
Now, can you remember where you were 25 years ago? Well, you might if I tell you that that was when Mrs. Thatcher resigned as Prime Minister.
It followed an extraordinary few days when Michael Heseltine, the MP for Henley, challenged her. She was toppled, but he didn't get the top job.
Our political correspondent Phil Hornby has been talking exclusively to Lord Heseltine. What are his memories of that week? A sequence of events that began with Sir Geoffrey Howe's dramatic resignation.
I suppose the surprise that it all happened. I had no idea that Geoffrey intended to resign.
It's rather like sending your opening batsman to the crease, only for them to find, the moment the first balls are bowled, that their bats have been broken before the game by the team captain.
And in a sense, events took over.
And things happened very quickly, didn't they?
Very quickly, yes. I didn't think I would win. I thought I had to stand, but I didn't think I would win.
He's tirelessly toured the country, wooing the constituencies in his calculated campaign for the leadership. His agenda now is markedly different from that of Mrs. Thatcher on the three major issues dividing the cabinet. He favours a steady move towards a single European currency.
What did your party activists in Henley make of what you were doing?
They divided. There were the loyalists who I think were instructed to try and bring me to heel.
I've said all along that I didn't think he would be ideal as a Prime Minister.
There were my supporters locally who were very much on my side.
He would be my choice.
Actually very pleased that I got more than half the parliamentary party, and disappointed that it's not quite enough to win on the first ballot.
Mrs. Thatcher famously was taken by surprise by the closeness of that first ballot. Were you surprised?
We had a very, very clear idea as to who would vote for us and what the numbers added up to. And we were right, to within one or two, I think. When we got to the second ballot, the announcement of it, I was actually driving to a council meeting of the London Zoo, of which I was a member. I knew that was the end of any chance I might have had.
Do you ever lie awake at night and think, what if?
No. I don't lie awake at night full stop. Of course, I would like to have done the job.
If you hadn't challenged Mrs. Thatcher and she'd stayed as Prime Minister, what would have happened to the Conservative Party at the next election, do you think?
They'd have lost. Poll tax would have finished us.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
There are still quite a few members of the Tory party who just cannot forgive you for what you did.
I understand. I, of course, disagree. Parties are coalitions, and I happen to represent a strand of the Conservative Party that is different to Mrs. Thatcher's. I'm not going to change, nor did she.
Phil Hornby there, and more on that and the rest of the political scene on this month's edition of The Last Word with Phil on ITV at 10:45. That's straight after our late news.
Well, also on ITV this evening at 7 o'clock, Emmerdale is running a storyline where Ashley Thomas, the programme's clergyman, played by John Middleton, is diagnosed with vascular dementia.
Yes, the Alzheimer's Society says it's hoped it will get more people talking about the second most common cause of dementia and its impact on those affected. Gaynor Barnes has more.
Well, I suppose I lose my train of thought sometimes. Forget why I'd come into a room, the usual things that come with age.
But the news is something Vicar Ashley Thomas has feared for some time.
My concern is that your symptoms are unrelated to your accident. Looking at your age and test score, there's a chance that it could be the early onset of dementia.
The final diagnosis for Ashley is one chapter closing and another chapter opening. Within the story, Ashley has developed a strategy to try and hide it from people, which is a very, very common thing that people do. So he has his notebook, which he writes everything down in. That's his memory, and he completely relies on that. So if he loses it, which happens, he's lost. He's completely lost.
In this country alone, 850,000 people are living with a form of dementia. It's estimated nearly 150,000 of these have vascular dementia, which is caused by problems with blood supply to the brain.
I've got dementia. The last time I checked, there is no cure. I can barely admit it to myself.
All this time you've kept it to yourself?
I have seen what this disease does to people, not just the sufferers, but the people who give up their entire lives looking after them. Do you think Harriet wants to know about that?
For us, it's upsetting to a certain extent, but nowhere near as upsetting as it is for the friends and relatives, because we see these people as they are now. They have a memory of them as they were, and these were significant figures in their lives. You lose the person twice. The person that they used to be goes, and then ultimately they will die.
Over the coming months, Ashley and his loved ones will come to terms with his progressive illness, his journey helping many more understand the impact of this devastating disease.
Reporting there, Emmerdale is at 7 after the ITV News, and then in the Tonight programme at 7:30 we shall be asking, after Paris, can we be safe? Is Julie Etchingham.
Coming up on Tonight, I'm in Paris talking to survivors of last week's brutal attacks and to security experts on why terrorists have struck the same city twice. And we ask how we can combat the threat of further attacks in Europe by so-called Islamic State. That's after Paris, can we be safe? Tonight at 7:30.
Some more news from around our region now, and senior police officers in Hampshire have begun their move to join colleagues from the fire service at a shared headquarters in Eastleigh. It's the first time in the country that a senior police team has had a joint HQ with another emergency service. It's part of £3 million of savings, which the force says will protect frontline services.
Businesses on the Isle of Wight are being urged to attend meetings on plans for the future funding of the island's tourism industry. Earlier this month, the council said it was ending its annual £330,000 grant to the Visit Isle of Wight consortium. Businesses that benefit from tourism are being asked to pay into a fund that will be used to promote the island.
Now, 80 years ago, the Royal National Institute of Blind People created talking books for soldiers who'd been blinded in battle. And in those days, the novels were recorded onto gramophone records.
Well, decades later, they're now on CDs. And to celebrate the anniversary of the talking book service, the RNIB has decided to start offering them free of charge. Stuart Leese has our report.
Her sight started to deteriorate when she was in her 40s, but with regular deliveries of the RNIB's talking books, 83-year-old Maxine Turkington can still immerse herself in her favourite crime novels.
Commander Adam Dalgleish was not unused to being urgently summoned to non-scheduled meetings with unspecified people at inconvenient times.
Maxine suffers from Stargardt disease and only has a small amount of peripheral vision. She's been using the talking book service for 12 years.
Oh, that made my life so much more pleasant. I got a Daisy CD player, which I still have, and usually that's in my kitchen because I hate housework. And when I'm doing ironing or washing up, I listen to a good book, and I don't really think much about what I'm doing. I even stand up in there and have my lunch so I can listen to a book.
The RNIB started making talking books 80 years ago this month, primarily for soldiers who'd been blinded in battle. When the service was launched in 1935, the books were recorded onto long-playing records made from a resin called shellac. In 1960, the format was changed to cassette tapes played on the Mark I talking book player. And in 2002, the charity moved into the digital age when it started producing talking books on compact discs. Now, in addition to CDs, the books are available as digital downloads. They're all produced here at the RNIB's library. There are more than 34,000 talking book customers. The charity has over 23,000 titles to choose from, and almost 4,000 books are produced and sent out each day. To mark the 80th anniversary of the talking book service, the RNIB is scrapping the annual £50 subscription and offering them for free.
Only 10% of books really are produced in accessible formats, so people who are blind or partially sighted really struggle to access reading. So really the RNIB fulfills that role, and the Talking Book Service is at the heart of that because lots of people enjoy listening to books, and so we've been producing them for 80 years and hopefully for 80 years more.
Maxine's passion for books for blind and partially sighted people prompted her to write her own cookbook, seen here in the big print format, and of course also available for free on CD. Stuart Leiths, ITV News.
Children from across the country will soon be given the chance to become part of a new initiative which it's hoped will bring down the barriers between different cultures.
The Scout Association is encouraging youngsters from ethnic minorities to join so they can play together and improve their language and writing skills. Katie Oscroft has been to visit one of the pilot groups.
Then we're going to turn right, then we're going to go forward, then we're going to go right again, then we're going to turn left, then we're going to go up that hill, then we're there.
It's not an exact science yet, but the map reading skills of this new Scout group are coming on. And this isn't all they do together.
Which way is that? Right. Left. Making tents. We did a camp at school, we set up tents, we did our own barbecue. We basically get maps and our teachers tell us which way to go, and we work with other partners and do some teamwork. We did health first aid and we do cooking.
The idea is simply to get these children from many ethnic backgrounds to play together.
The big point is community cohesion, so getting children that don't necessarily have the opportunities into Scouting, doing the fun activities to make them meet other people from different parts of the community and work together in Scouting. So if we can get children working together, then they are our next generation of adults that will also work together.
A lot of the skills that they get through Scouting, like those team building skills, those building those positive relationships together, those confidence skills, they're all sort of skills that they can then take out into the wider community.
I found Sam!
Back inside, writing for fun helps language skills. Scouts across the country will soon set up more groups in deprived areas.
The plan is we want to provide scouting into 200 of the most deprived communities, wards in the United Kingdom. We're doing really good work here, we're getting very good positive response from the young people in the community, and we are sure that we're able to roll out our Better Prepared programme, because that's what it's called, to the rest of the United Kingdom.
We are here!
The aim is for these youngsters to take their friendships home and help to bring down barriers in divided communities. Katie Oscroft, ITV News.
Well, a generation or two ago, comradeship and adventure in the great outdoors was epitomised not just by the Scouts, but also by characters in Enid Blyton's much-loved children's stories.
Oh, I did love them, I really did. Perhaps all a bit dated now in a world of high-tech toys and computer games, but still fresh in the mind of Roger Howe, who's more reason than most to remember the childhood tales.
Well, as Kerry Swain explains, he has an amazing family link with the Enid Blyton series.
In the words of Enid Blyton, the weather was frightful with lashings of rain. But it was absolutely super to meet the jolly nice man who was the inspiration for so many of the author's famous book covers. Throughout his childhood, Roger Howe's mother painted him and his three brothers as they played, and those vivid pictures used to illustrate dozens of books.
This was one of Mum's illustrations for Enid Blyton, one of many she did for Enid Blyton, and I've no doubt that in this particular picture myself and brothers were asked to probably climb up the stairs, I should imagine, to get that particular pose. That's myself and my older brother bathing Patch, the family dog, in the sink at home.
Mary Gurnett died in 1998, leaving her children with hundreds of original paintings. But it wasn't until a customer spotted dozens of old paperbacks in her son's picture framing workshop that he decided to promote the artist who put faces to Enid Blyton's characters.
There on the floor was this very scruffy cardboard box overflowing with books. And I said to Roger, "What are these? I thought this was a picture framer." And he said, my mother, Mary Gurnett Howe, was the illustrator. And that's how it all started.
It's pure nostalgia rolled into a lovely, colourful book cover.
What sort of a childhood did you have, and how much indeed were you children the famous five?
Being four small boys, we did the normal four small boy thing, which was tree houses, bows and arrows, boats on the Dane stream or out at on the sea, and climbing, you name it. That was our lives. They were really the halcyon days of lashings of ginger beer we lived, but we didn't know it at the time, of course.
Roger wants to share the nostalgia. He's holding an exhibition of his mother's pictures on the Barnes Farm Business Park in Milford-on-Sea on Sunday the 29th. And he hopes to get the images licensed and printed on tea towels and duvet sets. Kerry Swain, ITV News.
Wonderful, wonderful. There may still be 35 days to go until the big day, but the team at Wakehurst Place in Sussex have already been getting into the Christmas spirit.
Yes, they spent the day decorating their Christmas tree, which is thought to be the tallest living one in the country. But just how tall is it? Well, hopefully Simon has the answer. Si.
Well, Sangers, Fred, before I tell you how tall it is, do you actually want to see it?
Yes.
This is Britain's tallest living Christmas tree. Isn't that an impressive sight?
Wow.
Isn't that lovely with all those lights on? Hard work getting the lights up, mind you. And I know because earlier on today I had the pleasure of going up in the cherry picker with a tape measure to find out just how tall it is. Now, Paul James has had to shin up the tree with the tape measure, which, as you can see, is there, and we can now reveal the height of the tree is 120 feet and 6 inches. So has it grown since last year?
It's grown at least a foot since last year, and it's 120 feet on its 120th birthday.
So is that the rule, a foot a year?
That's about it.
Fantastic. Excellent. Tony, we're back on terra firma, thank goodness, but impressive views from up there, and doesn't it look lovely lit up?
Isn't it great? Wakehurst at night is a fantastic place with a tree like this.
However, it's not actually lit now. This isn't a figment of our imagination, but this is all unofficial.
That's right. You're getting an absolute sneak preview because this actually goes live coincident with our Glow Wild Lantern Festival, which starts on the 4th of December. But the tree will run right through to 12th night in the new year, so there's plenty of opportunity to see it.
And it does look very impressive, but hard work getting up there. We were here today while the team were laying the lights on. How many lights are on there?
I've counted every one of them,
Yeah,
1,800 lights, and I've twisted them all in myself. But our crew has been here from first light right through the day. It's a big job. But look at the result of it.
And it was miserable and rainy, so they worked for their money today, didn't they? But very efficient, these lights, apparently.
They are. They're all LED. It's important that we have energy efficiency, and the total power consumption of that is less than your domestic kettle at home.
So we're looking at that Christmas tree now, and that is essentially a cup of tea in electrical form. But obviously it's important for places like Wakehurst to celebrate Christmas, isn't it, in this way?
It certainly is. Look, this has become a tradition. It's 23 years old. It's seasonal traditional for this part of the country. You can see it from miles around, and it's important for us to bring our visitors in.
Even Gatwick Airport, the pilots apparently use it, don't they?
That's
But we have some good weather news for you if you like it cold. Here's the details.
That's us driving on, us driving off in France, and us outside a chateau.
Driving to Europe. Eurotunnel Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Now, do you fancy an Arctic blast? Because whether you like it or not, we're going to get one come the weekend. Temperatures today have been above average for the time of year, 12, 13 degrees. By Saturday, we're looking at half of that, 5s and 6 at best. But factor in the wind from the cold northerly Arctic air that's going to come down our way, and we're looking at feeling like around freezing. So a big difference coming, and the risk of a few wintry showers into the bargain too. For tonight, nothing like that to worry about. There is some rain towards the south. That's going to linger through the night. Further north we're drier, lots of cloud everywhere, hence it's a fairly mild night. Temperatures 7, 8 degrees. Now tomorrow morning starts the same, north-south divide still. Cloudy in the north, still damp in the south. That rain's going to ease away, the cloud's going to break up, and by the afternoon some decent sunny spells. But temperatures will struggle to get into double figures tomorrow, and eventually we'll see a few showers crop up, but they'll be fairly few and far between, and most of us will stay dry. As for your high tide times, you can see in Brighton 5:05 in the morning, 5:45 come the evening.
Eurotunnel Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Now on Friday night's programme we'll have more on the delays upgrading the Great Western Rail line.
Yes, already 2 years late and over budget. A new report out tomorrow is expected to make a series of recommendations. We shall be finding out exactly what it means for passengers. That's tomorrow night here, of course, at 6 o'clock.
In just a moment this evening, we have the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale and Mark Austin.
Stacey Poole's got our late news, so do try and join her if you can. But for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you very much indeed for watching. Stay warm, take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, bye-bye.